Hi again. Once again, we heard another biography today. Today's biography was about Helen Keller. And because biographies give us true information about a person or an individual, we are going to draw another timeline. So I've got my piece of paper. Up at the top, I have the word timeline. And remember, just like yesterday's, I'm going to start out with a line across my page so that I can plot the different parts of what happened in Helen Keller's life. Remember, we start on the left and we work our way across to the right. I'm going to write Helen Keller's name at the bottom, so that I remember who we are talking about. So I have Helen Keller, her name. Now, who remembers what happened at the very beginning of the story? So I'm going to create my first plot. And did you say that she was born? So I'm going to write the word born. And just like in our previous timeline that we did, I'm going to draw her as a little baby. She's going to be little because we're all born little. So just like everybody else, the very first plot is we are born. Then, what did we learn about Helen Keller? That's right. She was born both blind and deaf. So I am going to create a head and I'm going to put my eyes in it. And just like the ones that we remember from Ray Charles when we found out that he went blind, we're going to leave it without the pupils to show that he couldn't see. But we could also just draw a couple of eyes and put like an X through it or a marker through it to show that we didn't have that. And then I'm also going to draw a circle and I'm going to draw some ears around her head. I made a mistake. So I'm just going to make my circle a little bit bigger and I'm just going to change a little bit. I didn't like my first drawing. And I'm going to put an X through it. So I did a face, and in here I drew just some eyes with no pupils to represent that she was blind. But you could have also drawn here, and I just did a head with some eyes and put a line through it. And then to show that she was deaf, I did a face inside a circle and put a mark through it. But you're drawing to represent how she was deaf could be your own drawing. So next we move through, and what happened next? Yeah, did you remember that she was mean and that she had tantrums because she didn't know how to communicate? So that becomes the next marker. She's a little bit older, so I'm going to give her some longer features, some arms with some hands, and some clothing. So she's got a shirt and some pants on, and I kind of give her a mad face because she wasn't very happy at this time. Maybe you can put like a toy car or something on the floor, maybe that she had thrown. So here we've got her as a child. She was mean and had tantrums. And once again, you see her eyes still don't have any pupils to represent that she couldn't see and that she couldn't hear. As we keep moving along, another plot on our time. Who was the person that came and met with Helen Keller and became her teacher? Did you remember Anne Sullivan? I'm going to write Anne Sullivan on our paper, and I'm going to draw the teacher. And of course, she was nice and she wanted to be helpful. And when I think of a teacher, I just think of somebody wearing a dress. So my picture is going to have Anne Sullivan in a dress. And it'll also help me figure out the difference between her and Helen, because Helen, of course, will be smaller. Remember, you won't be able to see the pupils in her. And I'm going to make her in a shirt and pants. And I include the body parts, the arm, the legs, the hands, the legs, the feet. So next we learn that she meets Anne Sullivan. This is Anne Sullivan who becomes her teacher, and this is Helen. She teaches her how to write and communicate using sign language and Braille. So I'm going to make some hands to represent the sign language. And then I'm going to just do some random dots to represent the Braille. So she teaches her how to communicate using sign language and Braille, a form of dots raised on a paper. What happened after she learned that? Do you remember? Do you remember that she did go to school? She did. So once again, I'm going to make my drawing very similar to the one we used for Ray Charles because he went to school as well. And she went to school. She did go to school. And what do we remember at the very end? What did she become? Did you remember that she became a famous writer and speaker? So to represent the writing part, I'm going to create something that kind of looks like a book, and it's going to have some words on the page. And I'm going to use a microphone to kind of represent the speaker part that she did. So later in life as an adult, she became a famous writer and speaker. So let's go through our timeline for Helen Keller. This is kind of a biography, and it's a shortened version of what happened in her true biography that we heard. So the very beginning, Helen Keller's born. When she's born, she is both blind and deaf. She cannot see or hear. As she becomes a young child, she is mean and throws tantrums because she cannot communicate with anybody. Her mom and dad introduce her to Anne Sullivan. This is the teacher that she has that teaches her to use her hands to communicate through sign language and to use her hands on raised dots called Braille that teaches her words. As she continued to grow, she went to school. And as an adult, she became a famous writer and speaker. Today's timeline is about Helen Keller. Once again, you are going to get the opportunity to create a timeline, and I would love to see them.